Hello everybody and welcome to part 3 of this series of video tutorials for designing a virtual model of a classic desk lamp in Fusion 360. Today we're simply going to add one more component but talk about a few other tricks and tips. We're just going to add in this pole here and we'll set the components ready for the next two parts. And then we're just going to talk about some other features and tricks and tips that will help you with your use of Fusion 360. So I'm just going to quickly give this a bit of a spin, and so you can see where we are up to and what you should have up to now. And the first thing we're going to do is simply just map out a few more components ready. So if you're going to do this, it's really important that you activate this top part, this top component, which as you can see from this icon is the full assembly of all parts. And then we're going to right click and say new component. We're going to do that again a few times and just map out the next few components. You can of course do this at the very start before you draw anything, get them all mapped out, but sometimes it's quite nice just to build a few and then map out the next one. So I'm going to double click here now. We'll call this part D, pole B. Just misspelled that. Let's go again. Pole B. This one I'm going to call part E, and that will be the metal bracket, we'll call that. And then part F, we'll call that the lampshade. Okay, so we've got the rest of our components mapped out now, and they should be clearly here. You shouldn't have any underneath or within any other component there, because we just want to treat all these as separate explicit components. Now, as you can see, we've got our first three components drawn, but we have not yet drawn the others. Now, before we start talking about drawing the next pole, I want to just show you a few things. First of all, if you are looking at your drawing and this should be angled kind of away from the base. So this part is, the tip of this is overhanging in space, if you like, rather than towards. So if you've orientated this in slightly the wrong place, you don't need to worry. You can quickly fix and amend things like that. So what I'll do is I'll put a top view, and if, for example, yours, we're just going to use the move tool to show you this. We're going to select both of these parts. If you hold the shift key, it allows you to select multiple things. And I'm going to move this. So say you've positioned yours this way around, and when you look at it, it's tilting inwards rather than over the side of the base, and you want to reposition it, you absolutely can. So what we'll do is we'll get rid of this. In fact, what I'll do is if you change it, you can change it just as I've done, and then you can move the combine further up and move the move back, and that will actually then update things, so you've still got the hole cut into the right place. So you can still move things around and then update the sequence, the history bar at the bottom, if you need to just amend the positioning thing. Now, admittedly, the positioning isn't very accurate at the moment. We're just doing that visually for now. Later on, we'll look at how we constrain things, but for now, we're just building it visually in that aspect. We're trying to do everything else a bit more accurately, but in terms of the positioning there, we'll look at ways to make that more accurate a little later on. So I'm just going to undo all that because all mine was in the right position there to begin with. But if yours wasn't quite there, you can easily modify it that way. Another thing that I find that some students end up having a visual style that can freak them out a little bit. Maybe they've hit a control, tried a short key and hit something by mistake. But I've had students have their model look like this before now and find it really confusing when they're trying to extrude and things. So just knowing that the visual style, you can change it into different formats is good to know about. We do that down here. The one I always recommend that you stick with, though, and don't play around with it too much, is with hidden edges. Oh, sorry, that's not that one. Sorry, is visible edges only. I prefer to just work in this one because I can see it a bit more clearly, and that helps me construct the drawing a bit better. So if you have with hidden edges, you can see through as well the hidden things. But for me personally, I end up more predominantly using this method or this one. Okay, and it's totally up to you. but I'm going to continue with visible edges only for the purpose of this. Now then, with those things said, we're going to now draw in our next component. Now, the way we always approach this, and you'll have seen this from building these three components, is that we always select a face we want to draw on. And now when we do that, we're literally telling the software, you have to imagine we're telling it, I want to put a piece of paper flat on that surface, which is in that orientation, on that axis. And then we're telling it, I want to draw a 2D form, and then later you will manipulate it into a 3D form. And so we're going to do that exact thing. And then we're going to position the pole just so it's hanging above it, so we can then use it in the next tutorial to cut into this pole. And we'll talk about that in the next tutorial. But for now, we're going to build part D. So I'm going to activate this component. My drawing's going faint, and I find now with the lines visible, even when it goes faint, it helps me see things a bit more. So earlier on, you could tell it was a little bit more difficult when it was this way around. Sorry, that. To see it fully, but if you add visual style with visible edges, you can see things a little bit clearer. So I'm going to now create a sketch. You can either click over here or just press the W key, and I'm going to select now that face. I'm going to press C for circle, and it's quite nice, Fusion, I find, because it is intuitive. It tries to understand what you're trying to do, and it will kind of lock onto certain things, which really helps. I'm going to draw a circle there. I'm then going to use the shift button and the roller on my mouse to just quickly orientate the view so I can see it in 3D. Press E for extrude. I'm going to extrude this upwards. Now, I want to make this pole here the same length as this pole, but not the full length all the way into the connector. I want it from the top. So if you can't remember the sizes, I'm going to show you another quick tool that you can use. So this is currently 70mm. I'll just press OK on that for now. I'm going to activate the whole thing. But I want it to be the exact same size as this, but not including the bit that is inside the connector in the base. I want it to be the same size as from here to here. Now, a nice quick way you can do that is using the inspect tool. So if I press inspect, I can say, okay, what's the distance from there? I might have to zoom in, but because I'm using a mouse, it's a lot easier to do that, to there. And it tells me it's 100mm. So you can do a quick inspect on your drawing to find out. Now, you could say, oh, you could look at the extrusion. But in this context, if I went back and looked at the extrusion of that, it's not actually the full size I want, because I want it to be what I can see. If I double click this, you'll see it's probably a bit longer. We scroll down, the full extrusion, where is it? We have 100mm plus 18mm. Because we did it both sides. I could have just taken 100mm from there. So that's another way you can do it. But the inspect tool is a really useful one to know about as well. So now if I want to update this, I'm just going to say fit. So I can see the whole thing. I can update this extrusion. Instead of it being 70, I can say 100. And there we have it. And now this is sat on top of this component, as you can see. Okay. What I'm going to do, I just want to move this above it for the next tutorial ready. So I'm going to press escape. It's a good habit to get into to press the escape key just to make sure you're not in any mode, that you're not in any kind of feature. So I'm going to press escape. I'm going to select this part. I'm going to press M. I'm just going to move it above for now a little bit, and then I'm going to press OK. Oh, there we go. And basically that is the end of this tutorial. I'm just going to redo that last part again. So we can use the M key, we can select the component, and we're going to move it up out the way and then press return. About 30mm is fine for now. The reason I'm doing that is because on the next tutorial, I want to do something to this face or this one, and having them separated just with that for now will make that a bit easier. And so again, it's just another useful tool and another context to quickly use the move tool to get used to using that. Okay, thank you very much, and I hope that was useful.